Hi, this case study is about a situation called Get This Child Out of My Room. A brief summary of the case study. Basically, there's a young third grade student who is displaying threatening behaviors towards his teacher, and Miss Taylor. Miss Green is the new teacher in the school for special education. She is straight out of college, and basically, Miss Taylor has asked Miss Green to remove the child from the general education classroom, and Miss Green follows the rules and insists that there be an IEP meeting. She observes the student in the class, and she puts forth some effort to put in place a new behavior intervention program for the parents to approve at the IEP meeting. Category 1, problem identification and analysis. What do I know about Carl? Carl is a third grade little boy. He has an IEP for behavior disorders. His parents have recently divorced and his behaviors have escalated since then. His parents did not have a friendly divorce, and they ended up with joint custody of Carl and his two older siblings. Most of Carl's poor behaviors and threatening behaviors are directed towards adults, not towards his peers in the classroom. He does have a behavior intervention plan currently in place, but since the divorce and the escalation of his behaviors, it is no longer working. Carl does not show any problems with intellectual functioning. He just is behaviorally challenging for his teacher at the moment. What do I know about Miss Green? Miss Green is a brand new teacher. She is putting forth great effort to do what she believes is best for the student. And even though Miss Taylor has told her that she wants Carl out of the classroom, I believe Miss Green knows that some other things need to be put in place, some other services or supports, not just removing him from the classroom. So she does write a new behavior management plan, and she does set up an IEP meeting for the parents and the administrator and Miss Taylor. What do we know about Miss Taylor? Miss Taylor is a 10-year veteran teacher. She's not willing to meet with Miss Green to help formulate a plan to help Carl, and she basically just wants Carl out of her room. She said at the end of the IEP meeting that the former special ed teacher would just have taken Carl out of the room and taken him to a different place to work in a workbook whenever a student was disruptive, and she expects Miss Green to do the same. She tells the parents that Carl probably isn't in the best environment for his education at the time. What do I know about the parents? They have divorced recently. It was not a friendly divorce. Carl's mother had to take a job outside of the home, I'm assuming for financial reasons, to keep the family together, and she pretty much doesn't know what to do with Carl anymore. She's at a loss. She even asks if she should give him Ritalin, one of her other child's prescription drugs. She verbally attacks her husband at the IEP meeting and then breaks down sobbing because she just is at her wit's end. She has no idea what she can do, and she says she will sign anything the school gives her to try to help Carl. What do I need to know? I need to know more about the dad, because he was not really identified much in the case study. I don't know what kind of a role he plays in Carl's life. We need to find out what other support services are available in the community and in the school for Carl and for his family. And we also need to know what other special education staff is available who could help support Carl in his troubles. Is there therapeutic day treatment at the school? I know some schools through social services have other outside resources that come into the school building to help students who are having problems. I'd also like to know more about Miss Taylor. Why will she not put forth the effort to collaborate with Miss Green to help Carl? She doesn't seem to want to do anything with a new behavior plan. She seems to have just given up on him. And we also need to know more about the administration, because at this point with the case study, we don't know if they would support Miss Green or if they agree that Carl should just be pulled out and put in a room by himself. The problem. Carl's behavior is getting worse towards adults. He has thrown pencils at teachers, he's thrown rocks at teachers, and he doesn't seem to be getting any better. Carl probably feels neglected and hurt by the adults who have loved him in his life, and he seems to be hurting other adults almost to test them to see if they're going to neglect him and hurt him as well. Miss Taylor obviously is trying to get rid of him from her classroom. I'm sure Carl knows that, whether she has said it directly to him or not. Children are intuitive, and he probably knows that he's not going to get the attention he craves and needs from her. The school system is in a cooperative situation. They share resources, and Miss Green's efforts may not be supported or may not be able to be supported depending on what the administration has at their at their hands for resources, what they have to offer. A plan of action. Step 1, I think the available resources have to be identified and they have to be offered to Carl and the family. They need help figuring out how they can find the help that they need. They've all been through emotional trauma. The divorce didn't just affect Carl, it affected his parents and it affected his siblings, I'm sure. And they all will need help, and the school should take an active role in helping them find that. Additionally, Miss Green needs services and support as well. Other special ed staff need to be pulled into this situation, and they need to be used to help support Carl in any way they can. Step 2 is staff training. Miss Taylor definitely needs some professional development. She needs to learn to collaborate with special education teachers more, and she also needs a little bit of training in childhood trauma. Trauma can affect the brain and a child's learning in such negative ways, and so many students are suffering from trauma that teachers really need to learn how to handle that. Step 3 is to improve school and parent relationships. Carl's mom is suffering greatly from the divorce. Her outburst at the IEP meeting pretty much shows that. If she understands that the school is working for her and for Carl, and they're doing their best to benefit their family and Carl both, Carl's life at school and at home could improve because he would start feeling support from his mom and from the school both. Everybody would be working as a team, focused on the same outcome, which would be Carl's behavior improving at school so that he could learn. Category 3, a resolution. What is best for all students? I believe that Miss Taylor, after receiving some professional development, will be a better educator for all of her students, so that would benefit everybody who's in her classroom. Once Carl's receiving services, he needs to be in the classroom. Other students will feel safe. He won't be threatening anymore, and so everybody will be able to learn more while he is there. And then the teachers and administrators need to work as a team. Miss Green and Miss Taylor definitely aren't working as a team, and administration needs to ensure that that is happening so that the whole staff is trained and learns to work as one, focused on the same goal. Category 4, reflection. I felt a lot of feelings while I was reading this. I was angry at Miss Taylor. She pretty much gave up on her student, and that made me very mad. I was sad and frustrated for Carl's parents. I'm sure that they didn't expect to be divorced. They didn't expect to have all of these emotions that they're trying to deal with. They didn't expect for it to affect their children the way it has affected Carl. They're probably all emotionally exhausted and they need support. I felt a mix of emotions for Carl. I felt very sad for him because his parents and other adults like Miss Taylor seemed to have given up on him. I felt frustration. His sadness is just so apparent. He's acting out and he needs somebody to support him. And I felt pride and I was in awe of Miss Green. She's a brand new teacher. She has a veteran teacher telling her what needs to be done, but she did what she was trained to do and she stayed focused on what was best for the student, and that is exactly what she should do. I think the unresolved issues all stem from missing information. Does the school have enough staff to support Carl? If not, who can support him? Is there any adult in that school who has a relationship with Carl who could help support him? Does he have peer support? Does he have a friend group? Finding out the answers to those would help serve him. So the teachers and administrators need to find answers to those questions. Category 5, Standard 2, promoting the academic success of every student by enhancing instructional capacity. For this standard, an effective administrator will recognize the need for and provide professional development for educators, such as Ms. Taylor, who obviously needs to improve their practice. An administrator will also determine the least restrictive environment and the necessary supports for each individual student. Obviously, in this situation, we're talking about Carl, but many students need that. And again, to be visible to ensure that procedures and supports that have been agreed upon or implemented are followed. An administrator has to be visible in the classroom, in the hallways, and keep teachers accountable. Category 5, Standard 2, again, to promote the personal well-being of every student. An effective administrator builds relationships with the community. They know what services are available for families, and they let families know. They communicate well. They provide students with whatever they need, food, clothing, medical attention, because as long as a student is worried about one of those basic needs, they aren't going to learn. So an administrator who takes care of those needs helps a student learn. And also an effective administrator will encourage teachers to work together. They have to build relationships with their students. They have to build relationships with each other. They all have to be focused on the students' well-being. And finally, to enhance instructional capacity, an administrator will hold educators accountable to follow the rules and do what's best for the kids. They will be a leader, not a boss. They're willing to pitch in. They're in the classrooms doing the work, helping make everything work well together. And they advocate for more teacher salaries. When the budget process comes along, they're with the school board, advocating for salaries and for more teachers in the buildings so that all of the needs of the students can be met. Thank you very much.